All right, guys, guess what? I'm going to give you the answers to the quiz. All right. The only thing is, we already took it, so this probably would have been helpful, before, but you can correct it if you didn't know. But I walked around the room and I have the quizzes here, right here, and I see a lot of mistakes. So please pay attention, ask your questions, and you didn't put things in the organizer like you're supposed to, or maybe we wouldn't have taken the quiz today. So let's talk about it. X squared equals 121 was the first question. And this person right here wrote x equals 12 because 12 times 12 equals 121. Actually, 12 times 12 is 144. All right. So, but I do like the reasoning that we need the same number twice. But what I want to see is you guys, right now, you should write this on your paper. So write the square root sign over top of both sides. And then that makes this x. And the square root of 121, I know some of you already know it, probably saying it in your head right now, it's 11. And I see that on some people's papers as well. But the thing is, they wrote things like 11 squared equals 121. 11 times 11 equals 121. Okay, yes, both of those are true statements, this person. But what you want to write is x equals 11. And then that is the answer. If you circled 121, no, that's not the answer. The answer is 11. Why? Now we can check, we can write the check, but just know that this is the answer. And actually, it's not even the whole answer. Okay, so we're going to check and then we'll understand why. 11 squared equals 121, so it checks. But also, don't forget in class we said that negative 11 squared would also be 121. So I had planned on not giving you full credit unless you had 11 and negative 11. But some people didn't have either of those. So now you know, okay? So we square root both sides, and we need to know our square roots. The square root of 121 is 11. Now, for this next one, x cubed equals 343. Now, to solve this, we cube root both sides, which is the check marky sign with a little 3 there, cube root. And so that makes this x, and the cube root of 343 is 7. X equals 7, check. Is 7 cubed 343? It is. And we can do 7 times 7 equals 49, and 49 times 7 would be 343. So there you go. All right. Any questions about 1 and 2? Raise your hand. Ask them now. Moving on. Write the first, write out that nobody should have got these questions wrong because we wrote it, we sang it, I asked you to memorize it, and somebody wrote this for the cubes. They wrote actual cubes. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. And somebody wrote 15 perfect squares. No, okay? These were titles of things that you should have in your notes. And that tells me you didn't study your notes. You're not going to do well in this class if you don't study. You have to study. But if you do, you'll find you will do well. Okay? So the first 15 perfect squares are 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144, 169, 196, and 225. Remember those? And I only wanted you to, we did in class, we did the first 10 perfect cubes. I only asked you to give me the first 5. So that's easier than what we did in class. And they are 1, 8, 27, 64, and 125. And why is that? Because 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, 3 cubed is 27, 4 cubed is 64, and 5 cubed is 145. All right, those were right from the notes questions. Now the MCAP practice questions. So we already solved a square root equation. We're going to solve a square root equation. Square root, square root. And you know, if you don't know the square root of 49 over 16 and you wrote this, then I would at least give you some points, you know, because that is mathematically correct. But now I'm going to show you, in case you didn't know how to square root a fraction. In order to square root the fraction, we square root the top and we square root the bottom. And the answer is 7 over 4. But like we talked about in the first question, there's also another answer. Do you know what it is? Negative 7 over 4. So the positive and the negative. So final answer, x equals 7 over 4, comma, negative 7 over 4. Draw a box around it. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, ask a question, because I'm going to ask you to do this again. Don't get your questions answered, you're not going to get it right. And I want you to get it right. Which of the following numbers are rational? So I got to talk with some groups last week. Some groups were just messing around and they didn't get this information. So here you go. We have a big circle of numbers called rational numbers. Anything that can be written as a fraction, right? Within those rational numbers, we have a smaller circle called the integers. That's the positives and the negatives. And then within that, within the integers, we have a smaller group called the whole numbers. So you can see from this diagram, if something is a whole number, it's in not only the whole number circle, it's also inside the integer circle. And whole numbers are even inside the rational circle. So a whole number is a rational number and an integer. So this, unfortunately, there are no whole numbers in this list. The 72, that's an integer. That's right here. Okay, so if 72 is in the integer circle, then we can say it's an integer, but it's also rational because integers are in the rational circle. So that's one of them. And 4 and 4/5, that is a fraction. So that's rational. Square roots that are not perfect squares are not rational. Only the perfect squares, which we wrote out there, are rational. Irrational numbers have no pattern and they go on forever. In case you didn't write that down, write it down. All right, moving on. What type of a number is this? I got so many different answers. Let's see what this person said. Irrational number. This person said that's an irrational number, which I just told you goes on forever. Does this number go on forever? No. So it's not irrational. It stops. Okay. But if you study that, you'd know it. Okay, so this number is an integer. You can't fool me. I can tell when you didn't study. So that's an integer, which means it's also rational. And I'm pretty much done with the quiz. All right, and I took my time. So you can do this. You just have to practice. List 3 real-world examples of numbers and their classifications from our math walk. Okay, so in student lockers, that was an example. Mr. Fields' tire circumference is something I brought up. And so that was an irrational number. All circumferences are irrational because they contain pi. We also talked about the windows. which would be whole numbers. We also talked about grades with Ms. Torres. I think we talked about grades or something. So that would be rational because you got those percentages, they can be decimals. And so here you go. Just a little bit of real world application. There's more than just these answers, but those are some of the answers. And then notes to your future forgetful self. This is an important question, not because there's a specific answer, but because this is part of retrieval practice. Retrieval practice will help you remember things. And so it's a no pressure question that you want to do. Let's see what this person did. I remember learning how to set up perfect squares. Write notes to your future forget about what you learned and want to remember because you believe it will be important later on. So when you do a question like this, make sure you're answering the whole question. This person did not answer the whole question. One more of our friends. Ooh, this is a good one. To my future self, I learned how to do order of operations easier, but sometimes it's hard. I want to remember the times where I get stuck on the question later. I want to know how to solve better without a problem. Okay, so that's good, but it doesn't come from this unit. So I was looking for, think about square roots, cube roots, and classifying numbers, and write down a couple notes about those topics, anything I've said in the video to your future forgetful self. And then we'll look at it in a week and you can think to yourself, oh, I know this now, or I actually still have this question. All right. Whatever you do, just try your best. The rest we'll work on.